Doc Rivers continues to time and time again not get it when it comes to getting. Oh, let him play.
You bet one bone to win 19. What site do you use where you can actually bet $1? Because
they let you do 50-cent bets.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Yeah, literally, like he dropped Superman down like the drain, comes out, like, God damn it, Superman. I don't know, honey. I don't know where he got that from.
From Los Angeles, this is Dave in the City,
Part of the DITCOW Sports Network.
Now, here's Dave Medina.
Good evening, sports fans, and a pleasure to have you here for the big college basketball show. Good to have you back here from the Dave in the City studios at the home of champions, Southern California. And the mic is hot tonight, unbelievably. But we're glad to have you with us here, talking some college hoops. And part of that, of course, is our friend Chris in Syracuse, who's back with us as well. We have a lot to cover tonight on this program. We'll get into the recap of what happened in the previous few rounds, then our preview of the Sweet 16 and beyond, and we'll give you our predictions for the remainder of the tournament. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. And so let's talk to the man who roots for the team that made it to yet another Sweet 16, Chris in Syracuse. How's it going tonight? Oh, let me get you to unmute. That was my fault. I muted you by mistake. Let me see. There we go.
You good?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's very good when you put it like that. I mean, I'm not even sure if I could have expected that. Well, we're happy around here.
No doubt. Great job out of Boeheim and Company.
Boeheim.
For sure. No, you guys deserve that. Like that was a great couple games. I mean, beating West Virginia is no small thing. That is a nice win.
I mean, San Diego State hadn't lost since early February. I know it's the Mountain West, but they hadn't lost in about 2 months. And Syracuse made them look not that good. And,
No.
and that's a good and that's a good team too. Wouldn't take anything away from them.
Yeah, it's a shock. I think the way that went down was a real shock. I definitely thought that the Qs could win the game. I didn't think they were going to win by that many points. That was unbelievable.
All of a sudden, they're playing defense.
Yeah,
even
that's
the
true.
Zone, the zone early in the year wasn't the same as maybe it had been in the past. And these past few weeks, it's been more what we expect, and it's been stopping teams, and no one's really caught fire from three, which is something that the zone will surrender.
Yeah,
and it's a wager that you won't be able to do it enough for the whole game or long enough to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, that was always the thing that they talk about in the tournament, that the 2-3 zone would cross up teams. I'm a little surprised that Mountain West teams are going to cross up by it, but you got to give a lot of credit. I just think that the level at which it was played was very high, and it just really threw off the Aztecs completely. I mean, they were never in it, really, if you think about it.
No, they weren't. And, did a good job on West Virginia. Mitchell got free a few times and shot threes over it. And, of course, they rebounded well, which you would almost expect from them. But, of course, Huggins has seen the 2-3 zone from Syracuse quite a number of times. It's not new to him.
No, so that also was another incredible triumph, and that was a closer game, but that ended up being another big victory.
That was almost more West Virginia pressing at the end, and Syracuse being a little tentative and breaking the pressure.
But that's expected. I mean, usually a team will start to press at the end of games, especially if they're behind. So it makes sense. Yeah. Just a tremendous job. Betty Boeheim nailing it from the 3-point line. You talked about that already, but it's a good spot.
Yep.
Good spot.
No, it's fun out here. At least we're still alive. Even if the bracket's busted, at least the hometown team still going.
Whose bracket's not busted right now? Everybody's bracket is completely in flames. Like
somebody somewhere who I hate probably has an okay bracket. But believe me, I hate them, and they don't know shit.
Well, it just goes to show you that you just never know what to expect in an NCAA tournament. That's why it's called March Madness. It would be just called March Order and Conduct if it wasn't for that. And we've had so many upsets. But surprisingly, and just in the context of all the upsets, it's surprising that even in the middle of all that, 3 number 1 seeds still made it to the Sweet 16. Now, are you surprised at that necessarily? Are you surprised at the number 1 seed that didn't make it? What's your feel as far as how the number 1?
There we go. I'm surprised that the number 1 seed that didn't make it is the number 1 seed that didn't make it.
Yeah, it's a biggie.
I would have figured that one and another one were pretty safe, and might be one of the other two.
Yeah.
I'm going like this for a reason.
Okay, so the one that didn't make it was Illinois, who I picked to win the whole thing, but don't call that a mush. A lot of people picked them.
I had him as my worst loser, my first loser.
Yeah. So they were, I would imagine that quite a huge percentage of the people picking the bracket had them in the championship game. So, I mean, who would have expected them to be out this early? Except that I would, look, here's the thing. I saw some of the game. I know you saw some of the game too. Maybe not all of it. But you got to give a lot of credit to Loyola Chicago. I think the fact is, if Illinois took them more seriously, they would still be here. And I think that's what it amounts to. It just didn't look like they'd taken them seriously. They didn't put in the effort, and particularly on defense, they were brutal. I don't know if you caught the highlights at least, but it's a very big disappointing loss. It's a disappointing loss for them and the Big Ten. The Big Ten was just mortified in Mike Francesa speak this weekend. I think, are they down to one team? I think they're down to like Michigan, and that's it, right?
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
There was an article by Jay Billis on why they underperformed and this and that, and then you see people hating them. Well, because the conference wasn't as good as everyone said. Well, look, that was a good conference this year. I don't know how you say that. The conference sucked this year because it didn't. But
no, I wouldn't go that far.
A weird, just a strange year, and I don't know. Maybe we get a strange tournament out of a strange year, and that's what we get. I don't know.
It is definitely. I was not ready for them to lose like that. But look, again, I think that's where you have to be really careful when you face teams with a lot of veteran players, and that's where Loyola was. A lot of people who know each other, played together, so they've been through a lot, and so they can handle these situations.
Well, isn't that always the deal with these with a lot of these upsets or close games?
Yeah.
You get the team that has a lot of freshmen and sophomore superstars versus the team with the steady juniors and seniors that have been there 3 and 4 years and started every game in their career. And that Krautwig kid is introduced him to the nation, but I've been watching him for 2 years now, and he is good. Cameron Krautwig, he's the real deal.
Yeah, he is good. Yeah, I think I mentioned recently that he's got the record for the most points scored for Loyola Chicago. So, yeah, I believe the hype in that regard. So he's gonna leave as the all-time leading scorer for Loyola Chicago. And now I'll go look it up just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
The coach is good, and the coach has been there before. He knows
he's very good.
He knows what he's doing. So,
this might be a stepping stone to something bigger. We talked about that. I've talked about that in previous shows.
You always wonder.
You do,
but then again, I don't know if the opportunity or the I don't know what I want to call it. The momentum is there. I don't know if you can turn it into a Mark Few deal, because Mark Few never left, and look at where he is now.
That's an interesting comment. I don't know.
I don't know if you can do that. There is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm trying to express.
Yeah. You're not going to be able to do Gonzaga things in Loyola Chicago. No. So if that's the question, the answer for me is no. So I feel like the next step then logically would be to go to a bigger program, and there are a lot of rumblings about where that could be.
There's some job openings already.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, you know, a very big one is Indiana, but that opened up earlier. You know,
yep.
You could be seeing some
Utah, but I think that's going to be filled in state, either Mark Pope or Craig Smith. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't know if that's not going to be better than Kristoviak. It's just, but I think that's where they're headed with it. But let them do them.
Yeah, yeah. So this is great. So we have a lot to discuss here. I think this is fine. I think this is a good way to start this program. I mean, there's just so much crap that went on. It's unbelievable. Like,
can I get a quick timeout?
Of course.
Did the Senators really win that game?
I don't think I'd be surprised by that. I'm going to have to be honest with you in that. We're talking about an NHL game right now. So the Flames were at the Senators, and the Calgary Flames are miserable on the road. That's why I didn't put them in. Like, I had a parlay tonight with a bunch of teams. I didn't put them in there because of that. They're so bad on the road. So did you have them?
Yeah, I did.
Bummer. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, look, I know that Ottawa's bad, and it's a bad team, but I just can't trust. I can't trust Calgary right now. Even at home, they can't even play that well. But they're really bad on the road. Like, I just saw the thing, and I don't know why. That's a very talented team. You know, you'd think that with all those guys that can score goals, that they could win a game against Ottawa. For goodness sake, yeah. Did you have them in a thing, or is it just like them straight up?
No, I had them in a thing.
Oh, you had them in a thing. Oh boy,
that's not good. No,
that is not good at all. Did you have an over and under in that game?
No, but I did on the Ducks Wild, and that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Good deal. I don't think there were a lot of goals in that game. I don't even think they got the empty netter.
Then I just saw the Nuggets Raptors score, and
yeah, Denver is weird. And that's also why I didn't put them in the parlay, because they have been so up and down. I think they were on short rest too. Didn't they play yesterday? Let's check that out. I'm checking that out right now because I need to. It
did.
Oh, they did. Yeah. So generally speaking, I don't like to take teams on short rest in that kind of situation. And I think we're going to see it. Now, the only thing you're talking about, you mentioned off air, a Nets Jazz game coming up on ESPN. You get to watch this game. So do I. But
yeah, after last night, I'm not sure exactly how excited I am. But go ahead.
Because of what happened right now. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be tricky. But did you get 13 or 11? Because I just see 13 right now. You had 11? Okay. Well, I mean, I'd have to look at where the public is on it. Maybe more people are on the Jazz, so I'm not going to give up on that one. You never know. Jazz have kind of been a little wobbly lately, so we'll see. But yeah, I'm sorry about the Nuggets. They have annoyed the crap out of me too. They have been so frustrating. I mean, it doesn't look like it with their record. Like, it looks, oh, they look good. Oh, they're 14-8 away. That's
they can win this game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. Oh man, and they gave up 135 points. Now that is consistent. Their defense has been brutal this year. The Nuggets, so bad. Yeah. So okay, well that was our NBA talk.
Let's get out of this.
Back to business. Yeah, no doubt. Okay, so I cannot request this song. Never mind. Anyway. Let's do this. Let's talk about the first four, where it all started, the beginning of the madness, and there really was quite a bit of madness in this scenario. And it ultimately, look, we had the Texas Southern game, and that was great, and it was fun to watch. But then you had another game that was just absolutely miserable to watch, the Appalachian State game, and then you had the Drake game. What was that?
It was miserable to watch if you bet my side of it. But Drake Wichita State, how good of a game was that? That was a great game.
That wasn't the game I'm referring to. I was referring to the Appalachian State game. That was a miserable game. But
I stand by what I said.
certainly. But because look, nobody's gonna ever say a 54-53 game was a great game. That is just a tough game to watch. And we had that and more from like North Texas and so on. But yeah, the Drake game was good. I really enjoyed that. That was fun. There was a nice, I think, I'm trying to remember. Well, they obviously won the game. That was a miserable game too, to be fair.
It was, but the end was exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It really was up for grabs. And that frustrating moment where I think you needed Drake to like win by 2 points and they won by 1, and it just nobody covered in that scenario.
Well, I did. I was fine with it.
Oh, because you had Wichita, right? Yeah. Right.
Well, the thing was, Wichita had those two good looks at the end of the game.
Yeah. Yep.
Three to win it.
Yep.
They couldn't do it.
Yep, and yep again. Yeah, that was a toughie. So that led up to the big game of the night, which is played pretty late for people on the East Coast. But this is just how the schedule worked out because they had to get all 4 games in one day. Normally they do them in 2 days. And it was. Well, did you want to say anything else about the Drake Wichita State game? Because I think it was pretty even. I don't really have anything else.
No, it was about what I expected. I actually thought Wichita would win though. So.
Right. Obviously, your wage
didn't matter in the big picture.
Nah. I don't think it would have mattered who won that game. We'll get to that momentarily. The game of the night, and that's actually a good segue to this too, because the Pac-12 began their dominance in this tournament. Who would have thought? With this game where Michigan State went up a whole lot of points. I believe it was as many as 20 at some point in the second half.
Was it that many?
I don't know if it was that many. It might have been around that. It may have been. I think certainly 14 or so. I don't know about.
Yeah, around there. There.
And then UCLA just started nibbling at that lead. And Michigan State, you could tell they were really starting to panic. And I know that at halftime, Izzo started chewing out. No, actually, it wasn't Izzo. It was the player started chewing Izzo out, which is such a strange visual.
I don't know. You see that sometimes with that thing.
It does happen though.
Well, no, he was on him. He was on them about whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Player didn't like it, and Draymond was tweeting and the whole thing. It was just a mess.
A mess. It sounds like there was a lot of dissension inside of the. I have my bypasses on. That sure explains a lot. Maybe you should turn that off. But, oh boy, now what's going on? Sorry, for those of you who are unfamiliar with how compression works on the audio podcasts, I've had my audio bypass setting on, so my compressors were actually deactivated for the last couple episodes. I just turned it off. I just turned my compressor back on. So those of you who aren't familiar with how that all works, but maybe this podcast will sound a little better tonight just as a result of that. Anyway, back to the actual show. So you could tell there was definitely a lot of like infighting on that sideline, and it seems like the UCLA fed off that. I don't know if they necessarily knew that was happening, but the contrast of them just really coming together and fighting back to win the game versus the arguments that they're having on the Michigan State side. I mean, it really seemed like a fitting ending for the Michigan State program, who were just struggling all year long. They really could not put 2 and 2 together. And while a lot of people, including myself, like them to win the game, it is honestly fitting that they lost this way, because that's been their season. They've been up, they've been down. They just could never really put things together.
That's right. And they have talent, but some of it I think is a little misguided here and there. And if if I have advice, it's to listen to your freaking Hall of Fame coach who's been there how many times. But I don't know everything either on what's going on there and whatnot.
Yeah, it's. I think it's bound to happen. I know that this.
I think it's just more of overall frustration for how the whole season's gone than any one specific thing in that game.
Yeah, completely fair. It just doesn't seem like, very much like Duke, very much like Kentucky. There was a lot of problems with the big programs this year, and I think it's because they just didn't have the time to get to know each other, play together, practice together. The pandemic really disrupted a lot of that. And just to go back to my other point, the teams that had all their players from previous years had a significant advantage. This is not an original point. I just got that from Scott Van Pelt, but I also agree with it because I think it was clear all these guys, you whip it together some superstars, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But when it doesn't, it can sometimes be catastrophic, and that's what happened here. It happened. Who else did it happen to? Let's see. Well, I was going to say North Carolina, but I'm not really sure if they made the tournament, so I don't really think that applies. But who else didn't make the tournament? Just Kentucky and Duke were the big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Virginia was honestly very lucky to get in after all that. So fittingly, they lost to Ohio in the first round. I'm not really surprised at that.
That was rough.
Yeah. I mean, it was, but it also was
tough to predict.
Yeah, no, exactly. It was a popular pick. Ohio was very popular. Yeah.
I still don't get it. I mean, if you watch the MAC this year, I don't know how you'd pick a team coming out of there. Not that they're bad. It was just so confusing.
It was
between Ohio and Toledo and Akron and those guys. It was just really tough to figure out who was doing what.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could tell you that Central Michigan sucked, and Bowling Green way underperformed. I mean, and Buffalo was pretty good.
Yeah.
Other than it's like, what do I tell you about that conference?
No, I was not. I was really down on the MAC, and that's.
Didn't think they were going to go in and upset a power team like that.
Well, see that I think that's where we differ. I just think that Virginia really couldn't get out of their own way a lot of this season. I did think that was on the table. I really did. But the problem was, just as you were saying, I just didn't feel right to pick Ohio to do that. So on my bracket, I wound up just trying Virginia anyway. I think my biggest mistake was picking Virginia a second time. I actually had them in the Sweet 16. That was a mistake. That was stupid. That's my fault. Like I should never have done that.
I have no idea how far I picked Virginia out because I haven't looked at my bracket since the second day, and I didn't look at it again.
Yeah.
That's in the past.
Got some juice on there as we speak.
I was gonna play that on later. Yeah.
Well, that's fine because YouTube gets really picky with copyright restrictions on the music, so that's perfectly fine. I love that song though; it's a great song. Oh,
you gonna get a letter?
Yeah. I think I will play that later after the show's over, for sure. I'll do it myself.
There you go.
Love it. By the way, do you know where Juice Newton lives?
I do not.
I don't know if this is still true, but the last I checked, she lives in San Diego.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's not what you would think, but it is apparently the case. So we're sending our best to her and her family, wherever she is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm assuming that she'll get back on tour and such as things open up again. Should be kind of cool. She's not that old, because you have to remember, but she's also not that young, I guess. But
she's getting up there now.
She's kind of getting up there, to be fair. But these upsets were wild. They were. That's interesting. You didn't think that was going to happen, huh? You were kind of thinking, well, Virginia can at least beat Ohio. I think, yeah, that's fair. But
I think we can pull through that one, and even with the COVID problems, even with getting there late, and that, I figured they were talented enough to pull through Ohio. I really did.
It's tricky. It's just funny because there was literally nothing from the MAC tournament the week before that impressed me at all. None of those teams impressed me. Ohio wasn't impressive. Buffalo wasn't impressive. Akron wasn't impressive. It's just like, I don't care. Like, these teams aren't interesting.
It wasn't that they didn't play good basketball against each other, because they did. It was just odd to think that one of those teams could come out of there and do that.
Yeah. And I think that said more about Virginia, because Virginia had the lead in that game. They were winning. We were halfway through the second half, and then they just choked. It felt like they choked. I don't know what really happened, but they could make a shot. And that opened the door, and Ohio took advantage. Then you see them in the next round go against Creighton, and they look useless. Like, they were never in the game.
And Creighton is somehow still
it's hard to. Well, I think one little bounce by Soe from UCSB, and it would be a different story. I think we'd be talking about UCSB potentially playing Gonzaga right now, but certainly we would have talked about UCSB playing Ohio the week before, the round before. I got to give UCSB a big hand for coming back in that game, because they were down by 10. Came back, got some important 3-point shooting. Came back, they were right there. Came down to that layup. The big guy had it, and he just missed. I mean, I can't get mad about that, but dang, I really wanted that one. That was going to be a great win for UCSB. They played their butts off in that game, Chris. It was such a game. I don't know if you saw it in real time, but man, what a game! Okay, cool. So that was just a tremendous game. It's just unfortunate someone had to lose, because that was a good game. It's a good game. But then I was like, Creighton, Ohio winning does mess this up a lot, because I'm like, well, Creighton isn't going to do much. I didn't think they were that good to begin with. And because Ohio advanced, it's like, well, they're so much taller than them, and they can play so much faster. I don't know about faster. I guess Ohio plays fast too, but Ohio just looked literally, they look lost out there going against Creighton. So I don't have a lot to say about that game either. So yeah, they made it. What can you say? Above them, Gonzaga. What's that?
I'm yelling at my TV again. I'm sure I'm not doing it.
Is this the NIT game? What game were we looking at here?
Bucks.
Oh no, I know what you're getting at, because oh no. Oh wow. As we approach the 11th anniversary of let him play. It's for months ahead, but still. You got Celtics Bucks. The Bucks were up by a lot in that game. And
they were.
And Celtics getting gritty and gutty at the wrong time. If you had the other side of that one, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Were they giving a lot though? Like, was it like 6 or 7 or something? Yeah. The Bucks are just a difficult team to put money on or money against. Like, it's just, I don't know what it is with them. Except this, their defense continues to be really, really poor, and it's showing again tonight. Giving up 119 and giving up 60 they gave up 60 in both halves. Never mind. But I don't know. I'm sorry about that one. That you would think that with being up, like, how many were they up? Like 10, 12, 15, whatever?
Yeah, they were up double digits when we came on here.
Oh, good.
All right.
Wow. They were outscored 33-21 in the fourth quarter. Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough one. That's tough. It's a weird night, I guess. I will say that the 2 games that I have in my parlay are going pretty well, but this is also why I don't take them with a spread, because I just had no idea. But looking at it now, it looks like both teams are up roughly 20 points, so good spot halfway through the fourth quarter, and hopefully it stays that way. Yeah. Are you doing okay overall, like with your card? Just out of curiosity.
Well, Pepperdine won by a lot, by
So you
23.
took the Romars.
Yes, I did. Yes, I
Okay.
did.
So you were very wise to not follow
I
my
was
advice.
I was zeroed in on them from the start of that tournament.
Oh, okay, okay.
And it's like,
What?
yeah, probably that.
No, I think that's a good idea. That was a better call because I just said that because I figured, well, it's going to be a close game, so I figured it'll probably be within 3 points, but
It
not
really
the
wasn't.
case.
Nope.
Not even close. You're got to give it to Lorenzo Romar and Pepperdine though. A lot of juice this year with those guys.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Very exciting, even when it didn't turn out well. It was still worth watching.
Absolutely. They did a tremendous job.
It was never boring to follow them.
No. Very exciting games, up tempo. Good sometimes it'd be some great shooting. They did well in the WCC tournament. So it's cool that they put the effort into these games. That really what it came down to from my point of view. Like, will they care about these games? And they do. Because with a win like that, I think it shows that they wanted to win the game. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
All right, moving on. So we're still in the first round because we have a lot of other things to get into. And you can kind of throw in second round stuff too because they tend to tie together. We covered almost the entire West. USC's run has been tremendous. Now, this is an example of a team that did throw people together, but it's actually worked out really well because Evan Mobley and Isaiah Mobley are two brothers, like literal brothers, who have just done remarkable stuff from the field. They've been shooting like crazy. They crushed Drake 72-56, but then my favorite, they destroyed Kansas 85-51, handing Kansas their worst tournament loss ever. That's a long history for Kansas basketball. So if that's the case, that's truly something special and something really, really kind of the like rock bottom for the other side of the score. So it's a fun, you've been on the Mobley brothers from the start. You really like Devin Mobley as well. What are your thoughts as far as USC?
Yeah, he's big time stud, big time going to be big time lottery pick right up there. Maybe number 2. I'm thinking. I mean, I'm not taking this. I'm going to quote whoever it was on the broadcast a few weeks ago. Like if you described what an NBA prospect should look like, I mean, you'd be talking about Evan Mobley, right?
Yeah. Very fair point.
An NBA ready body and game.
Yeah, definitely.
They got a tough one coming up, but you know what I think I'm gonna ride with them on that.
I'm a homer for USC here, but I'll ride with them too. I think if they're getting points, I don't know if they're getting points though. If they're not getting points,
no, they're giving.
Oh, okay, then I can't. I'm sorry, guys, but I have to take the points because those two teams really know each other well. So gotta take the points. It's the convention. I think I gotta follow it, but I'll be rooting for USC anyway. I hope they win. That's gonna be awesome. It's awesome as it is. I mean, the Pac-12 is so great right now, and the good thing about it is that it's not like people thought they were going to be bad. Everybody knew they were a good conference. They just simply didn't put them on the same level of the Big 12 and the Big 10. But here they are, beating out most of those teams, getting into the Sweet 16. And I mean, we could honestly spend 2 hours talking about the first and second round. Just that's how much happened. It was so much juice. But if we were trying to talk about Evan Mobley, let's jump over to the Midwest and talk about Cade Cunningham, who is the other guy who's a surefire NBA lottery pick. He's going to be really good. But he didn't get it done against Oregon State. So, I mean, what's your takeaway from Oklahoma State's run? Some people actually called their season a disappointment because of that. They thought they'd be in the Sweet 16 for sure. But I think people underestimated Tinkle in Oregon State.
I think that's true, and I also just think the cadence and the pressure for Oklahoma State the past few weeks, just the intensity that they needed get through the Bedlam games and get through that late season Baylor game and get through the West Virginia and the Big 12 tournament and to try to overtake and almost got to Texas late in that game. That takes effort. That takes something out of you when you're doing that. You're not getting a ton of days between it. And I don't know. I think you can only sustain that level for so long. Mm-hmm. And maybe I don't know. It's cliche, but maybe it was one of those peak too soon type deals. But they've been playing really, really hard at the ragged edge of the limit for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think you're right, because so much pressure goes on Cunningham because there's not a lot of depth on that team. USC has more depth than them. That seemed clear. They had other guys. Like Oklahoma State really, honestly, just has him and just a bunch of jokers. Like, it's just hilarious. But it can be enough in an NCAA tournament environment, but only for so long. And Oregon State, since they already know what they're getting into, I think they had a good game plan, and they really did. I don't know if they necessarily shut him down, but they had a close game, and they closed it out because they kind of had a feel for what to expect, and they were ready for them. So that was really interesting. I don't think it's a real disappointment for Oklahoma State either. I think there's only so much you can do with a one-man team. I mean, the apex of a one-man team is your Syracuse in 2003 with Melo. That's like the absolute peak of what it can do. Yeah. And then, but after that, it's a complete mixed bag. Nobody knows. You really don't know. So, interestingly, we covered a lot of the Midwest already, so there's not a lot else to say. I will say Rutgers losing like Rutgers does against Clemson. I mean, that's just sad. Like, turn it over with a chance to tie the game.
That didn't shock me, though.
No, I didn't. Honestly, it didn't me either. But it's tough not to feel bad and then laugh at the same time. It's like, oh boy, Rutgers is Rutgersing it.
Wait, you feel bad?
I mean, I feel a little bad. I mean, you figure, could it be a little different this time? But it's like you said, it's not surprising.
They underperformed actually from what their expectations were as far as a whole season were.
That's a very good point, because they started really well and they really struggled to the finish line. And that's also why I picked Clemson in their game earlier, but Rutgers held them off. So
inconsistent is
yeah.
But there was a lot of that. I don't think people could really get consistent this year with the starting and the stopping and the whole deal.
Yeah, I think that's completely right. And some teams have had, one of the teams that had a really big pause, like two of them actually, both in Texas, Baylor, and they're doing just fine so far. Good job out of them. And Houston, who I seem to remember going quite a while before playing. Maybe that was the football team, but
yeah, it was a football team.
It was a football team? Okay. Well, then never mind. But Houston did do a nice job in this round. They did beat Rutgers in a close game. I'm not even disappointed. I mean, it's you figured it was going to be a tight game because both teams were slow and they could play defense. So I didn't think it was going to be a runaway for either side. So Houston did what they had to do. I think this is a pretty good run. I mean, not much else to say. They get the defense is what wins it for them a lot of the time. So good job out of them.
It is. Not much to say there. They come out of the American. It's kind of they dominated it. I don't think they were really ever really threatened.
No.
In that sense during the year, so.
No doubt. So that's good enough there. Let's go back to the South. We covered a lot of let's go back to the West because I wanted to get Oregon in there. Oregon taking out VCU by way of just not having COVID was quite a story that on Saturday night. They advanced by default, so it sucks for VCU, but it is what it is. I mean, it's not completely surprising that that kind of thing can happen because we were ready. We were bracing for it. You figure one of these teams is probably going to have COVID protocol. I mean, contact tracing.
It almost wouldn't seem. It almost seems like that had to happen this year at some point.
Yeah.
Like we weren't going to go this whole tournament without it touching it.
Yeah. I mean, it just would not have made. It would have been unlikely for this entire thing to go without some kind of a disruption of that nature. So I feel bad for VCU, but I will say it didn't seem like they were going to beat Oregon anyway. Look at what Oregon did to Iowa. I mean, they just humiliated them.
Oh, goodness.
Was that a game or is that a game for Oregon? I mean, they were having their way from the from the outside and the inside.
Scoring at will.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that really points out a flaw in Iowa. I mean, you can't say it's a flaw on the offensive end because they scored 80 points.
Right.
I don't think anyone would sit here and say that Iowa isn't a good offensive team.
Right.
But yeah, it exposed some problems on the other end.
They got torched down the lane. I mean, they were
by a team I wasn't 100% sure could keep up and score enough with a team like that.
Yeah, but I think that also points out how good the defense. Well, maybe that's not the best usage of this idea with Oregon, but generally they've been a good defensive team. I think they were good enough against Iowa on this day. 80 points, certainly it's a lot of points, but for the way that game was going with all those possessions.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I thought they did a decent job for sure.
I mean, we know Duarte's a stud. They said it, and I wasn't 100% convinced for a long time. Like, Duarte, he's going to be good. He's coming back. He's going to get on the floor. I wasn't sold right away on it, but I am now. It's apparent that he's skilled, he's talented.
Yep. Let's close the West recap with Gonzaga. There really isn't a lot to say. They've just humiliated both teams that they played. Oklahoma did have an 8-point lead in the second round game, but Gonzaga in the second half took over the game completely. And it did seem like Oklahoma could at least cover, but then a flagrant foul very late in the game ruined it for Oklahoma's chances to at least cover 14.5 or 15.5, depending on when you took the game. But that's about it. I mean, the players doing what they do. Timmy doing what he does. Suggs doing what he does. And then the other kid, I forgot his name, doing what he does too. I mean, Gonzaga has been tremendous. I don't think it's, and I want to say this to all the people who have been anti-Gonzaga this year, where a lot of people have been, and I was in that boat for a long time, but this team is not those teams. This is a great team. And I just think that this is the time to stop fighting it. Stop fighting Gonzaga. It's not worth it. You're just going to keep losing. Like, you're just going to keep losing. Every time. If you keep doing that, you're like, maybe St. Mary's will be, maybe BYU, maybe Pepperdine. Stop. Just stop it. It's not worth it. Like, you think, maybe Norfolk State could do it. You're just humiliating yourself now by just thinking any of this. Like, maybe you could think, okay, maybe Creighton can cover the spread. You can do that because it's a huge spread. But in terms of like, this is going to be the game they lose, like, no, it's over. Like, this team is way too good to lose to anybody until the Final Four. Except for USC or Oregon. Okay, so to be fair, I think those two teams could definitely beat them. But that doesn't mean they're not good. This is a great team, and I think we gotta finally give them their due. They should be the favorite to win the championship from here on out. And Chris, thank you for letting me rant about that because it's bothered me. It's just like, guys, what more do they have to do to prove that they're a great team? They are a great team.
Right, but they're not going to get the ultimate respect from some of these people who are fools. obviously. Until they hoist the banner.
Yeah.
And we can cut the nets down at on a couple Mondays from now.
Right.
But we know they're good. That's not they're scary good, and they've been good for a long time. It's shouldn't be new. It shouldn't be a surprise.
It isn't even as, and you're actually raising a good point. The guys who keep saying, this team's gonna lose, they're gonna do this and that. This is a team that these are guys that don't watch this. They haven't watched their season. They beat some great teams in the regular season. Their non-conference results were tremendous. I mean,
I heard some people at a venue that I was at saying, I heard somebody say, Gonzaga, they didn't play anybody. They beat the 2, 3, and 4 in their region in the regular season.
They beat Iowa by 1 billion points on a neutral court. Who's the other team? Like they beat
the 2, 3, and 4 that were in their region during the regular season, and they wanted to play Baylor. It just couldn't happen because of the COVID.
Yeah,
they tried to.
Oh, that's right. They trashed Virginia too. That's right. I forgot. That's right. Yeah, I mean, seriously. So you can't even use that argument. Oh, they have a soft non-conference. No, they don't. They played literally the best possible teams you could play in your RPI. I don't know what their RPI was, but I would imagine it was really good. So they took care of business. They didn't have a letdown game. They did well in the WCC tournament. I mean, the closest call was against BYU, and they still rallied back, and they stormed back and won that game anyway. So it's like, there's nothing left to prove except winning the championship. And because I think I know what you're getting at, because with a lot of these guys, the narrative is going to be written regardless, no matter what happens. And it's too bad, because it's like, you can't tell me that a team that loses to Evan Mobley, who's probably going to be an NBA superstar someday, is a bad loss. That's a great player. And his brother is pretty good too. So it's like, it's not the end of the world if they lose to a team like that. And the same scenario with Oregon, who has a tremendous coach. And the same scenario if they get far enough to lose to, say, Michigan or, well, Florida State would be kind of wild. Or Alabama, though. Alabama, that's a great team. So it's just tough. It's a tough year. Yeah. So it's kind of unfortunate. But, yeah, I agree. I think it's been great. So we'll kind of stay with that. I like USC there just to compete. I like Oregon to compete, whoever comes out of there. I think it'll be fun. So that'd be a good spot. That concludes the West. Okay. Yeah. Oh, let me ask you this. Do you think that would you still consider Gonzaga the team to beat out of everybody who's left?
Yes.
Yeah, I do too. It's just a tremendous it's a tremendous group. Baylor is still a good candidate as well.
I think they're stabilized a little bit, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's a great call. Because we know that things are a little shaky in the Big 12 tournament. They've really put it together. And I think in retrospect, I think they would have beaten either side of the North Carolina-Wisconsin game. Even if North Carolina had won, I think they would have beat them anyway. So it's a very good point.
Way to show up, Tar Heels.
Bingo. That was lack of effort. I don't know what else it was. Like, they did not seem to be in it.
How do you surrender that many points to that team?
I don't know. That was rough.
I could understand if they took your offense completely out because it's Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't understand how you lose at a game in a game like that where they just outscore you.
I have never seen. I wouldn't say never, because Wisconsin scored 100 once to some tomato can team in the beginning of a season one time, but it's rare to see them score 85 against the Power 5 team. So you had to be completely lifeless on defense to do that in a tournament game, in a winner go home scenario. I would almost 100% put that loss on Coach Roy Williams.
Well, we can always do that. That's never.
It's low hanging fruit. I understand that, but come on, like, how could you not be motivated to at least be in the game? They just gave up in the second half, so they deserve what they got there. Yeah, I'm actually pretty shocked that Villanova made it to the Sweet 16. But when North Texas advances, perhaps that's a big part of the reason. That team was not talented at all. And I think it said more about Purdue than North Texas that they advanced, to me.
Unfortunately, I mean, North Texas thing is to ugly it up. That's very, very apparent.
Very
Slow
much
it down,
so.
pass the ball around, take a shot,
Yeah.
play defense. It's not the most exciting thing, but it was effective for them for a long time this year. And
Yeah.
they had a pretty good year.
Won them the conference, right? Conference USA.
And I mean, all of their over-unders were in the 120s, were in the mid-120s, 126, 125, those kind of things. That should be a warning sign right there of what brand of basketball they play.
Yeah. Well, they can only, but with that kind of style and without a go-to scorer, without any kind of scorer, I mean, there's only so much you can do with that kind of offense, and it was not. They just couldn't. They couldn't hang with Villanova. And the thing is, the size of the Wildcats was so much greater than that of North Texas. They were outmatched at every position.
I think that's the thing, is that they were outsized because North Texas had one or two bigger guys, at least in Conference USA. They were bigger in Conference USA.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they could do more against those guys, against the Conference USA opponents, and they came up against bigger physical guys, and you know, it just didn't work the same way. But you'll have that. Not trying to take anything away from them either, because they got in and they won a game. So
Right. No, but you can't take away what they've done, and a lot of credit, especially in Conference USA, like winning that took guts, and they had it. Good job out of them for sure.
That's a weird conference now, guys.
Yeah.
That is a weird freaking conference.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I did not have any feel for them. I really did. Like when
you would think on the face of it it'd be Western Kentucky all the way with Bassey, because he is a great player. It's not even up for debate. But you know, Marshall was a fairly good team, and just I don't know about that league, man. I don't know if I didn't pay attention enough, or if it was just that weird.
Yeah, I can't make a point. I don't really know either. It really was weird. And I didn't have a feel for the pacing of the games or the scoring. I just had no clue. Like, I barely even watched it for most of that week, because I had no idea who was good, what the quality of the games were.
I had a better feel for the Sun Belt.
Yeah, completely fair. Yeah, same here. I thought, okay, well, Appalachian State will obviously be very interesting, and they won. So
Georgia State and Georgia Southern.
Yeah. So it was just a weird year in that regard. Conference USA seems to have sunken below the Sun Belt for relevancy. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I really feel that way. I feel like the Sun Belt has just been a more interesting conference in both sports, in basketball and football.
I think they've risen up, especially in football. I think it's carried them a long way.
Yeah.
I mean, how exciting was Coastal in football? I mean, that was
definitely.
It was just a good story.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, it was a good story there, and then Appalachian State in the years before that were a good story. And very good team. So it's cool to see.
Because who wouldn't want to watch that highlight of them blocking that kick against Michigan?
Well, the good thing is, see, that was obviously an iconic moment, but that was also a different time when they were in the FCS. But it's cool that they built off that, you know, like they didn't just live off of that like some programs do, living off of a single moment for years. Notre Dame, but what was that?
Valparaiso.
Yeah, Valpro, I guess. That's a good choice, yeah. Like when they upset... Was that when they upset USC? Is that what you're talking about? Way back and...
The Bryce Drew and
Yeah.
on the floor and the whole thing. And
Yeah.
he was a Division I coach, so it's kind of like might have to let that one go and do something else.
Yeah, precisely. So, App State...
He was a coach in the tournament.
For sure. Oral Roberts taking down Ohio State. That one... I think it's fitting for the two of us because we really did not trust Ohio State the entire season.
I don't know. It's like they played the Michigan game there. And it's kind of like, wow, that was one of the better basketball games of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like they had too many flaws on the defensive end.
Yeah.
Ohio State did.
Yeah, I think that's it. I've told you that I felt like they were an undersized team as well. They relied too much on the outside shot too, so it was just a lot of things going wrong. And Oral Roberts was hot from the field. I mean, give him credit.
Even in the past, some of Ohio State's quote-unquote big guys have been under the rim or at the rim type players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not high flyers and soarers. Big, solid guys. They box out. They're wide. Their hips are wide. Their ass is wide. They can't get around the rebound.
Yeah.
And then they grab the offensive rebound and they lay it in. That's what they do. But no, I agree. You know, they didn't hit enough outside shots. And it's rough for people. I don't know, someone who watches much basketball as I do. But, Oral Roberts upset him. I'm like, yeah, I've seen Oral Roberts play. I followed them. They're the top scorer in the nation. Whatever. No, they're not. They're not a bad team.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of, and everyone else is like, who?
But then, Asmus did it again for Oral Roberts and the rest of the team as well against Florida. And Florida is a bit of a hot mess in terms of their execution. I mean, I don't think they're a well-coached team at all. So
I just don't think we're that good.
Yeah, and I think they were pretty lucky to beat Virginia Tech, actually, in the first round. So that went over.
The team, they're coming off of another long break, and you didn't know exactly what Virginia Tech was thinking or what they were doing. It's so hard to tell this year. And Florida, I was never impressed with this year. I mean, unfortunately, they had their best guy, or at least one of their better guys, go down and not come back with that scary moment there early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good that it turned out at least as well as it did.
Yeah, I'm glad he's okay. Absolutely, I know who you're talking about. The SEC consensus player of the year, but still, it just didn't seem like an organized group. And like you said, yeah, they were not that good. They were not.
But when it comes to like a really high seed, a 15, a 15, a 14, a 13, they might kick lightning in a bottle once, but it's hard to see him do it, 2 days in a row, or 2 out of 3 days is what you're basically looking at. You play a game, you're playing.
You know what though?
For them to do that, in that type of succession.
Yeah, and really, Oral Roberts is the only one that did it. But because they did it so early, it really cost me, like in my picks, like not on the bracket because you can only do them before the tournament, but I definitely overbought on the lower seeds, Ohio in particular. Well, no, I didn't touch the Ohio game, sorry, or Texas in particular. I'm like, Villanova's got to lose sometime. But then I finally watched the game, and it's like, as we were talking about, they were just so massively outside. Like, oh my God, this is I was like, oh no. It's like once I saw that, I was like, I knew it was over before they even got going. I was like, oh, they have no chance. So, you're right. And here's another example: Abilene Christian, right? They beat Texas.
Didn't see that coming. Did not see
That I
that coming.
didn't see coming at all. I'm like, what the hell was that?
I was actually kind of big on Texas.
I was too. I thought they'd make the Final Four, and here we are. Them sitting at home rather than in the tournament. I mean, they were really talking up the Abilene Christian defense. Texas plays good defense too, so naturally you end up with an extremely low-scoring game. Comes down to the end. Texas did have a lead for a bit near the end of the game, but I wouldn't say they gagged it away. They just simply lost the game. And Abilene Christian, at that point...
Was that me with Texas and Purdue and Illinois in the Final Four? I think it is. Wow, look at that. I didn't want to look at this again. You made me look at it.
Oh, no. You had Purdue as well? Oh,
yeah,
no.
Yeah, it was really what I thought was going to happen.
Wow.
With Williams.
I mean, you'd think they could beat North Texas. I mean, look, if they beat North Texas, look how the rest of that shapes up.
Exactly.
Right?
You think I was going to be scared of Villanova?
No. And then Baylor, who we know has struggled with big spots. You could see Purdue beating Baylor.
The problem is that they'll win now.
Oh,
Baylor.
yeah. Now, yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, at this point, Baylor's really had, like, the entire walkway cleared for them. You know, the toughest game, honestly, was Wisconsin. And honestly, the Wisconsin never really challenged them, to be honest. Their offense is truly not that good. But in this case, you know, Baylor just did what they had to do. You know, and good on them, I'm sure. So Abilene Christian, another double-digit seed to win. But similarly to North Texas, they had nothing for UCLA. And so UCLA's defense is good. So when they went on like an 18-0 run, and then another like 11-0 run, and then another run, and during the course of the game, it's really not that surprising to me. In the end, I don't recall if I picked Abilene Christian. No, I didn't. I don't think I did. I didn't. No, I couldn't touch that. So.
I would call you out as a liar on this program if you said you picked Abilene Christian. I would want to see the tape.
Yeah. Very, very, very. Well, no. In the bracket terms, no, I did not. No, there's no question. There was no way I would ever have picked them. You could have given me like 1,000 chances. I would never have taken them to advance a round. No way. There's nothing I saw from that team in whatever. I didn't even know what conference tournament they were in. I think they were was it SoCon or the?
It's the Southland.
Oh, okay, Southland. Okay, so no, there was nothing from that conference action that convinced me.
That's like your McNeese and your all those.
No.
Yeah.
Is that the home of Austin P?
No. That's the Ohio Valley. It's the home of the Sam Houston State.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of 16 seed fodder in that conference.
Well, not the one time that Stephen F. Austin came out.
Oh sure, yeah, those guys are fun. That's true. But I mean, I think a lot of people, particularly degenerate types, are familiar with the name Abilene Christian because of what they did against Virginia in football. That absolutely bizarre ending to that game that blew a cover for them against Virginia. And it is the talk of Scott Van Pelt's Sports Center.
He won't let that one go. He lost a ton of money on that.
Oh, that will live in infamy for years with those guys.
I think that's why he won't let that one die, is because he was on the that one. For everyone else, I mean, because I could hang on to ones that were bad for me.
Yeah, very Mike-like, but certainly very warranted. That was
like,
just
or like Brent with the Ohio State Northwestern.
You had to think he was on that game the way he said that.
Oh yeah.
You had to. With a lot of
and Herb Street knew it.
He did. If you guys ever watched the entire sequence on YouTube, the ending of that Ohio State game from way back against Northwestern, 2011, I think it was. You can tell Herbie knew it. He even called him out like a little bit, like. Oh, so good, so good. But Abilene Christian will live on forever as the team that fouled it up for bad beats. So they did it. Yeah. So beating Texas, it's a fun story. But
to me, the two best ones, totally off tangent here, were the Eagles. Was it Eagles? It was Eagles Seahawks at the end of the game there, and
the last Hail Mary in a game that was decided. That's right.
Where they have no resistance, just here, go in.
Oh gosh! And then the after show.
He's like, that was significant to some. That and the Browns Ravens.
Oh, Browns Ravens was insane, unreal.
Well, him coming out of that one, he's like,
he just did the shrug smiley,
like laughing in the track. That's why we have the segment on the Monday night show.
Yeah, he did say that, Dan. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
The best part of that game though is somebody maybe like me who had bet the over and had been safe for like a quarter and a half and could just watch that and laugh.
Oh my goodness, that over seemed like it was clinched at halftime. It was just an insane score. It's like 100 points in that game. So
they're both teams in the 40s, right?
Yeah. It was a rare night for sure. It always seems that way when you have like the best Monday night games ever. Like all the scores of those are like 40 this to 40 that, or like the Rams against the Chiefs was like 50 something to 50 something else, and I know that even way back, like when the Packers played the Redskins or something, I think it was like 38 to 35. It was just some ridiculous score. So that tends to happen on Monday night.
Anyhow.
Anyway, back to business.
Off of the degenerate stuff.
Well, I know a lot of people on this listening will appreciate that too, though. So yeah, so as far as the rest of the East, Michigan, to my surprise, are still alive. Good for them. Florida State, a little surprised because they just don't seem to be that great in offense lately. They've advanced too. I did love them against Colorado, to be fair. I did like them. Love is strong, but I like them. Colorado's offense was not going to put up 96 again. No, everybody could see that coming. I mean,
that was due for some kind of big letdown.
Oh, hell yeah. The only error was that I didn't take like a Colorado under whatever the hell the points were like bet. But you don't really want to do team props. It's just not a good bet. It's a bad bet. Don't ever do that. But certainly you could take the under. And you would have won there too, because there are only 124 points scored in the game. Florida State beats Colorado 71-53 the round before that, as a lot of people predicted. Unfortunately, I was not one of them. Colorado just humiliated Georgetown because the Colorado backcourt just scored 3 after 3 after 3. They were making everything from deep, and Georgetown just didn't have the talent to keep up. Particularly offensive talent. They just were not going to make... They're not a good come-from-behind team. Everybody knew that. Georgetown, if they fall behind, they have no mechanism for coming back in the game. So once they started falling back like 15, you were like, this is going to be it. Like they're done. And it only got worse. They lost by a lot of points. We won't stay on that game. LSU, props to... the Wade and company.
You really actually take a lot of the 5/12s and you know. Well, I did get Oregon State, and that was good. Georgetown, no. You know.
Did you get any 13s? Because 13 seemed to be really rolling in this tournament. 14s too.
Well, I didn't have Colgate. I didn't have North Texas, obviously. I didn't have Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have UNCG. So, no, I didn't have any of those.
Yeah, I don't think I picked any. I think no, I did not. I didn't take any of their teams.
I just flubbed up the whole thing. Yeah.
It was the right idea. Like, we love the 12s, and then you come to find out, like, none of the 12s actually won their game except for Oregon State.
Yeah.
And then you go in, and then you were like, oh, okay, then all the 13s are going to win. Well, that's good to know. Like, it's like so close to the idea of what.
Of course, I let you talk me into. I'm blaming you. Yes, I am. I'm blaming you for picking Winthrop.
Oh, the Winthrop scenario.
Yeah.
Again, I did say before this tournament started, I was concerned about their size, and then once the game started, I like, oh boy, they do not look like they can match up with these guys. So just goes to show you don't know how big anybody is until you see them in the actual tournament. You really don't. Like,
well, that's the thing. You see them playing against their own conference, and obviously there's a size difference between the Big East and the Big South.
Yeah, 100%. I'm happy for Winthrop's season. They had a great year. Year.
Absolutely.
So, tremendous job. Maybe with a couple of taller guys, you might be able to win go a little deeper in the tournament. But honestly, just a great year.
But you know what? If you get a taller guy in that conference on that team, they're not going to be that skilled, because anybody who's that big and skilled is going to Kansas.
Yeah, fair. That's fair.
If they're tall, and if they're really tall and they're in one of those leagues, it's because they're a big old stiff, and we've seen enough of those.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're more of a 6'8", 6'9" guy, and who's playing in the middle, but you're not big enough to play in the big league.
Right.
You have good ball skills. You might be good around the rim, but you don't have the size. You know what I mean? You're never going to have both.
All right, so now let's round it out as far as a recap. Look, Texas Tech beating Utah State. That was to me, it was a coin flip. I picked Utah State late. It was Texas Tech in the beginning, and then like the day of, I just I'm gonna just do Utah State, and I fucked that up. So I ended up losing to Texas Tech, and that's fine. Like I figured that was a coin flip anyway. No big deal.
Here's what I did on that. I had Texas Tech in the bracket,
mm-hmm.
but I picked Utah State with the points.
Ooh.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, you at least at that point of the tournament, which was like day one, it worked out for you, but clearly, the rest of the bracket didn't work out for you. But that's okay. I stand by my Colgate pick against the spread. I didn't pick him against the bracket. That would be silly to pick Colgate against Arkansas. Arkansas won, clearly. But I did like Colgate to cover. They didn't, but it really went away late. It was a very fun game, for like 3/4 of it. I mean, they could shoot. Those guys can shoot. And they were having fun with Arkansas for a good while. And then it got to crunch time, and then Colgate couldn't put up the shots, and Arkansas pulled away. A rough and tumble game for Arkansas in the next round, beating out Texas Tech by a hair, 68-66, and that sends them to the Sweet 16, and that's cool. But I will say, I have no confidence in them the rest of the way. They probably should. I mean, they should beat Oral Roberts, but who the hell knows? I just don't trust Musselman because I feel like it's kind of a ragged style offense. Do you think they could beat Oral Roberts? I mean, most people do think they would beat him, but what's your feeling as far as the upset potential?
You know what? I've liked Arkansas too much to.
I like him too. I just every time I pick him, I'm like, well, maybe this will happen, maybe this won't. But I've liked them all year. It's just that now that they're favored, when they were an underdog, it was so much easier to take them. Now they're favored. It's like, how do I play that?
listen, I can't get either team into this freaking game, so all my options are out there. Bracket
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, it'll be interesting. I have picked Arkansas to make the Final Four, for what it's worth.
The Magic's got to run out. If you're looking for a double-digit seed that's still going to do damage, I think we could talk about him, and I don't think I sound like a homer saying it either. There's still a double-digit seed out there that's going to do damage. The orange team.
The orange team. Well, if they play defense like that again, yes, but I can't say they would against Houston. It's an interesting call. I don't know.
Is Houston really going to start lighting it up from downtown?
No. I'm not saying that. I think
the problem's going to be is keeping Houston off of the glass. That's
yeah. It's a very good team. I think their length is good. I can't really completely evaluate that because they only played Rutgers, so I wouldn't have a feel. And Cleveland State, well, that was a joke. I'm not gonna even get into that game. I think Syracuse will be in their game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout necessarily. Maybe they will cover the spread, Houston, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be completely annihilating them. So I actually agree with you. I think there's a chance.
Or do you feel like Oregon State's a better option as a double
of the two?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's about even.
I would say I say keep underestimating this Loyola team at your peril.
I'm not. No, I'm done with that too. First I told everybody stop, just give it up already, trying to put down Gonzaga. Well, I'm saying the same thing I'm saying to myself about Loyola Chicago. This team is good. I need to just get with the program and admit it. So I will. Today is the day I begin to do that. However, I would still take Oregon State plus 6.5 because I think both teams are great defensively.
With the points, that's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points. Like that's almost a touchdown, which is a ton of points in basketball.
But they don't score touchdowns in basketball.
They don't score touchdowns in basketball. No, good point. So I'll take it with the points. But as far as who's going to win, I'm still going to take Loyola Chicago.
My Final Four is going to be USC, UCLA, Oregon State, Colorado.
And then the fifth team, which in the Final Four, he picked five teams. Remember that?
5 teams for his Final Four.
So Bill Walton goes on, and he actually, I don't know how serious he was in making his picks, but he picked 5.
I don't think that's serious.
Nah, probably not. But it was funny that we heard that he picked 5, whether this is true or not, or whether he was being serious. He picked 5 Conference of Champions teams to make the Final Four. You look at it now, though, he's not that far off base. I mean, you definitely can see.
He picked Oregon, even though it's in USC's
right.
region.
He picked the 2 teams from the same region to make the Final Four. That's funny. So, but as I was gonna say, like either of those teams, you definitely can see it. It would be unlikely just because they'd have to be Gonzaga first, right? But they're pretty talented. So, I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. Then you have UCLA back in the East, which we haven't talked about Alabama very much, but man, they've been destroying it.
Yeah.
You tend to be hot and cold with them. The one consistent thing with Alabama is their defense. Their defense has been very good all year long, and it did a great job against Iona, and it did a decent job against Maryland too. So, good on. I think this meeting between Alabama and UCLA in the Sweet 16 could be pretty interesting. I would take Alabama, but I don't necessarily think they're going to run away with it. I think UCLA is very pesky. Their defense is good too. It could come down to the end. I don't think I picked. No, I don't remember. No, I don't think I took Alabama to make the Final Four, which I think is dumb in retrospect. I really should have.
Yep.
I really should have picked them. I liked Alabama all year. Like, why would I suddenly switch on that and then go Texas? Really, Dave? Texas?
Right, yeah. Same.
Right? It's like you had Shackelford just smoking it from 3-point range all year. you've had like so much juice with Alabama. They play with a great tempo. They can keep up with anybody. They can slow it down against anybody. Their defense is good. They've been in close games. They've played very well in close games. A good example was against LSU in the SEC championship. It's like,
guess what? Even if you took Florida State, you'd still be alive.
Yeah. I just don't. That was just not. I just don't know what I was thinking. Like, Nate Oates is a very good coach. Shaka Smart's a good coach too, but I think now you can see this book of Shaka Smart letdowns in the tournament has just gotten so big.
Yeah.
Everybody warned me about that too. I had an opportunity to change it, and I just didn't. That just goes to show you that because of the unfamiliarity with Alabama in a tournament scenario, I just wasn't ready to put them that far. That was my mistake. More so than, like, it's like, a lot of people are going to put Michigan, and I'm like, that's boring. I'm not going to do that. But I will give them props. I think they played pretty well. I don't know. A lot of people were thinking Michigan would get clipped early, especially after losing Livers. How would you rate the chances between Michigan and Alabama in getting to the Final Four in the East?
I think I'd pick Alabama only because they definitely have more firepower right now.
Mm-hmm.
More firepower to summon upon. Doesn't mean they can't go out there and go real cold. That could happen, but I don't know. It just seems like they have more options. They have more offensive depth because they can everybody on that team seems to be able to hit it from three.
Mm-hmm.
And Michigan being a little beat up, no Livers. They seems like they live inside more with Wagner and those guys. Not saying that they can't win. It's just, man, if Alabama's going to keep hitting it from the outside, you can't trade twos for threes all day.
Nah. Good points. I think of the two right now, just because Alabama's a full strength. I mean, I would have trusted them more anyway, like from the beginning. But even now, I still think Alabama is the team that we're looking at here. So I'm with you on that. I think it's a good call. From the Midwest, this is the big question for me. Who are you taking out of there? Who are you taking out of the Midwest with Illinois out and West Virginia out and Oklahoma State out? This is a tough question.
Well, you know who I want to say, but
say it. You don't have to hold back. Say it.
I'd like for it to be Syracuse, but
honestly, I didn't realize you were going there. That's right.
Yeah.
That's good.
But honestly, maybe Loyola.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I was thinking you were going to say. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
I would like to see that Elite Eight matchup, though.
That'd be fun. Because it would be between them and Houston. I mean, I'd be happy with either of those against Loyola. I would agree with you. I think the most battle-tested team out of everybody in this field, in this Midwest regional, is Loyola Chicago, and they've all hit their spots. I feel like that's the team that's gonna do it. The team that could mess it up could be Oregon State, and I would not rule that out either because they have been really, really tough on everybody. So I wouldn't be surprised if they lost to Oregon State. But if they beat Oregon State, I don't see them losing to anybody else in the Midwest. They're gonna go to the Final Four. That's my feeling. I don't know by how many points. I just think that they're gonna do it. So it's a great pick. All right, so we talked about the East already. You said Bama. Of the teams left in the South, do you stay with Baylor here? You kind of made that point. I'm going to stay with Arkansas. I picked them in the beginning to make the Final Four. I'll stay with that. But where do you go?
Either one's as good as the other one, but something tells me Baylor's kind of rounding into form here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's like what this is. Like the season is so wacky that Baylor ends up being the rock and the constant.
Right. Isn't that what we said? And through all this chaos, for it seemed like months. It seemed like the collision course was going to be Gonzaga and Baylor for the title, and then the tournament happens, and you get all this wacky first round stuff. But in the end, really, does that matter if the two favorites just keep on trucking? Does it matter what 12 seeds beat which fives?
If 3 number ones make it, none of it matters. None of that matters. Yeah. If 3 of them do. Which does make you look back and you're like, in retrospect, shouldn't I have just picked all the top seeds? Because, like, if it evens out at the end.
I always got flack in the past for being too chalky with my picks. And then I try to pick upsets and I don't pick the right ones.
That's the problem. Tommy's been big on picking upsets too. Like, he's talked to me about that. I still think that's a good idea. It's just that a lot of conventions didn't play out this year. Like, you're thinking, okay, you'd get a lot of 8-9 upsets. I love Missouri, didn't get it. I liked, what was the other one?
I don't even count that as an upset. 10 over 7 is barely an upset in my book.
I also like, and this is as big a reason why I'm buried as any. I've been so down on Loyola. I've just, not down, but I just have underestimated Loyola Chicago all season long. And that bias has killed me. Because I picked stinking Georgia Tech to beat them. Do you know how stupid I feel after that? That was a dumb decision. I mean, that team doesn't even belong in the tournament. Why would I take them?
I don't know. When Moses Wright couldn't play, that should have been the end of that.
Yeah, fair point.
With him, I don't know. Then I could have seen him winning a game.
Yeah. Fair point.
That wouldn't have been outrageous.
Yeah, Georgetown was whatever. I don't know. That was kind of like, yeah, maybe they do it, maybe they don't. I wasn't really that worried about that. I had Clemson over Rutgers, and as I was saying, the 14s, like, I thought were where I missed, but that doesn't happen every year. I just think it's interesting that only 112 seed. You only got 112 upset, but the 112 that won was a team that most people liked anyway. It wasn't even that big a surprise. Oregon State over Tennessee. Rick Barnes losing in a big spot. Boy, that's a real surprise. No, it isn't. Everybody knew that was going to happen.
How much have I lost this year just because being down on Maryland?
Oh yeah, that's a frustrating team, and here they are in the Sweet 16. Good point.
That's so much money on that UConn game.
Oh, I feel that. That's rough. I didn't know what to do with that either. I didn't touch that.
I thought I knew exactly what to do with it, and it was UConn.
Right. That's tough. Oh man, that is tough. There's no doubt. All right. Well, I guess that's it as far as our coverage. I mean, we pretty much got into all the Sweet 16 stuff and Elite 8. Florida State, do you think that they get to the Elite 8? Because I don't think they get to the Final Four. It just seems like a bit of a...
Maybe. I don't know. They're
that tumbling sound sounds like that's the answer. They probably do that, right? They tumble.
Yeah. Oh boy. Anyways, they have
the sound you just heard was the Big Ten.
No. The sound is over here with stupid, and I'm with stupid.
Oh, look at them having fun. That's funny. Good times.
These two idiots. But I liked Florida State for a lot of the year, and then they went on a COVID pause. And I was like, oh, how are they going to come out? And they come out by waxing Louisville by 40. But then again, Louisville wasn't as good as everyone thought Louisville was going to be.
Right.
So, and then they go and they lay an egg in the, in the final game of the ACC tournament. But they're talented enough. They're always a big team. They're always sizable. They're always physical. I think that's something that Leonard Hamilton always sees to, is that they play physically.
Sure.
They play tough defense. But I don't know. They seem to be a little inconsistent too. But I don't know what's going on with Michigan. I really don't. So far, so good, I guess, for them, right?
Right.
I mean, they beat Texas Southern like they were supposed to beat Texas Southern. And then they beat LSU. I wouldn't say handily, but they beat LSU. I'm not. How big were you on LSU this year? I wasn't.
I liked them. I didn't necessarily think they were in the Final Four, but they're a gritty team. They're just not the best just not a great defense is all. You know, they're not a good defense. They tended to be kind of run up and shoot.
Yeah,
not a lot of organization.
A lot of that.
Yeah, definitely. So I never really thought. Yeah, for sure. Not the kind of team you would take too seriously, but I also thought they were good. And I did see, you could see a little bit of that against Michigan. But I wasn't hugely surprised they gave it away late. Maybe just from the standpoint, maybe I was surprised a little bit just because, Alabama was Michigan was short-handed. But even then, I didn't think it was that shocking.
You would almost expect. I don't know. I've seen some memes with the memes detracting from the Big Ten or gifs detracting from the Big Ten that were freaking hilarious. like one of the strongmen dragging the semi truck, when they drag you pull the 18-wheeler.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Michigan dragging the Big Ten into the Sweet 16 like this.
Oh yeah, with the straps. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, but we'll enjoy it while it lasts, guys, because I don't think they'll be there that much longer, but we'll see.
And the guys, and there's another one where it's like this gif of this guy at the driving range, and his buddy is bouncing balls to him, and he's hitting them off the bounce.
Mm-hmm.
He's driving them off the bounce, and they've replaced the ball with the Big Ten logos of the teams going out. There goes Ohio State. There goes Wisconsin. There goes Purdue.
Oh, that's good.
There goes Illinois.
That's right, man. That's right. Big letdown for the Big Ten this year. So have at it with the memes because they deserve it. It doesn't mean they're not the best conference. I want to make that clear. But it just didn't, sometimes. Uh-oh.
Shut up.
It's getting out of hand over there. Getting in a little bit too much.
Animals. Well, they are animals. So,
yeah.
Getting rambunctious.
Got a couple of Chris's dogs out in the living room starting to really.
They're my brother's girlfriends. They're not mine.
Oh, they're not yours. Okay. But it looks like they're ready for football season already.
Taking a liking to me, though.
That's cool. Good to know. So, anyway, let's get some final thoughts in. It's been a really good first weekend of the tournament, and I think we're ready for another good weekend of the tournament. These matchups look great. Any final thoughts before we head into the next couple rounds?
Not really. I don't even venture to make any predictions anymore because apparently I'm piss poor at that right now. But I'm just enjoying it. I mean, we've waited 2 years for it. I'm just ending it how I ended the last one. It's like, if you got to enjoy this because we didn't have it, and all the heartbreak, all the ups, all the downs. We did without it, and it was canceled and all that, and now it's here, and it's actually pretty great. Even if your bracket's busted, like everyone's is. Nobody's perfect anymore, right? Is there any perfect brackets anymore? I doubt it.
No, I think they're all gone. Everybody's gone.
I would think so, and And if there was a perfect bracket, I would just call it out as somebody filling in as many as they could.
Yeah, I'm not even worried about that at this point. All right, well, in that case, Chris, enjoy the rest of the games. I really do think we're going to have some good ones coming up.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely good teams and good matchups left.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just waiting to see if it's really going to be Gonzaga versus Baylor like we thought for, the last 6 months.
You could go either way at this point.
It's interesting. It's interesting that it's still out there.
Yes, indeed.
Even through all the chaos and all the upsets, it's still very possible.
Very possible. And I think it would be vindication for both of these teams if they get that far. So good luck to them in the rest of the way, and good luck to you.
The fact that Gonzaga still has anything to prove to anyone is kind of shitty, but
yeah, but that's just what happens when you don't come from a Power 5 school. That's just what happens. It'll continue to happen. It'll continue to happen for teams in Power 5 schools. Like Virginia had the same thing.
It's at the point where they can recruit NBA talent and even one and done lottery talent. Yeah. So it don't matter what league you're in if you can do that.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I completely am with you on it. So to me, they've proven everything there is to prove. This is a great team. So I'll be rooting for them the rest of the way. No doubt about it. All right, my friend. Thanks again. Thanks to the dogs as well. Have a good one, and we'll catch up later.
Yeah. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Take care. Good night. That's Chris in Syracuse. Good times. We had it was a pretty good discussion for sure. So on to the next couple rounds, the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 this weekend here on a whole lot of networks. Enjoy the games, and while you do that, I'll say goodnight. I am Dave Medina. Hope you've enjoyed the program. If you're looking for us, we're on Twitter at DITCOW, on the web at DITCOW.com. Look for us on Apple Podcasts, Dave in the City Out West. We hope you've had a good time with our show, and we'll be back soon. Until then, we will see you next time.